tested her months ago. So why explode publicly now? What happened?
The sound of glass shattering snapped something in the room, but not in him. My dad didn't look at the mess. He didn't look at my mom. He kept his eyes on Lily, waiting. Like this was a line he'd already crossed in his head long before tonight. Say it in front of her, I repeated, my voice steady even though my chest felt tight. I could feel Lily gripping my sleeve now, her fingers curling into the fabric like she needed something solid. My dad's jaw tightened. For a second, I thought he might back down. He didn't. She's not my grandkid, he said again, slower this time, clearer, like he wanted every single person at that table to hear it properly, and you know it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The words didn't land like anger, they landed like a verdict. Behind him, the Christmas tree lights blinked quietly red, green, gold, completely out of place against what was happening. Robert, stop, my mom said, her voice breaking now as she crouched slightly, staring at the broken glass but not touching it. Please, just stop. Stop what? I looked at her, really looked this time, and that's when it hit me. She wasn't shocked. She was scared. My brother Mark shifted in his seat, dragging a hand over his face like he'd been waiting for this moment to pass without happening. His wife stared down at her plate, frozen, like eye contact might pull her into it. Someone explain this to me. I said, sharper now, because she's 9. She's been sitting at this table every Christmas since she could hold a fork. Lily's voice came out small, right next to me. Mom, did I do something wrong? That was the first crack. I pulled her closer instantly. No, you didn't do anything. But my dad cut in before I could say anything else. You should have told her the truth a long time ago. The room went completely still again. I felt something shift, not just anger, not just confusion, something colder. What truth? I asked. And this time, no one answered right away. The silence stretched just a second too long, and that's how I knew this wasn't new. My dad didn't repeat himself. He didn't need to. The damage was already done, sitting there in the middle of the table like the broken glass no one had picked up. Lily stayed pressed against my side, her face half hidden, but I could feel her listening to every word. You don't get to say something like that and then just stand there, I said, my voice tighter now. Either explain it or take it back. I'm not taking anything back, my dad replied immediately. No hesitation, no regret. That hit harder than the push. I looked at him, really looked, and tried to line this version of him up with the man who used to show up to Lily's school plays, who taught her how to ride a bike, who used to call her kiddo like it meant something. It didn't match, which made this worse. Then explain it, I said. Before he could answer, my mom stepped in again, her voice low, urgent. Emily, maybe we should talk about this privately. No, I cut in. There is no privately. He said it in front of her. That shut her up. Across the table, Mark shifted again, finally speaking. Maybe we just calm down for a second? When was the time, Mark? I snapped, not even letting him finish, because apparently this has been sitting here waiting for Christmas dinner. He didn't answer. Of course he didn't. That's when my dad spoke again, but his tone had changed. Less explosive, more controlled, worse. You built this on a lie, he said, looking straight at me. All of it. A lie? The word hung there. I felt my stomach drop, not because I understood what he meant, but because of how certain he sounded. That doesn't even make sense, I said. What are you talking about? He didn't answer me. Instead, he glanced briefly at my mom, and she looked away. That was it. That was the moment something inside me shifted from confusion to something sharper. Suspicion. I turned to her fully. What does he think I did? Her hands were shaking now, still hovering uselessly near the broken glass. She swallowed hard, like whatever she was about to say had been sitting in her throat for a long time. Mom, I pressed. Look at me. Slowly, she did. Her eyes were already wet. He doesn't think, Emily, she said, her voice barely holding together. She took a breath that didn't quite land. He knows. And just like that, the ground under everything I thought was solid started to crack. Everything in the room tilted, and suddenly I wasn't the only one who felt it. What does that even mean? I asked, sharper now, my voice cutting through whatever was left of the holiday. Knows what? No one answered me directly. That was the worst part. They all knew how to look everywhere except at me. Mom, I said again, slower this time, forcing each word out. What is he talking about? She pressed her lips together, then glanced at my dad like she was asking for permission or forgiveness. I couldn't tell which. That's when he said it. I had a test done. The words were calm, controlled, like he'd rehearsed them. A test? I repeated. A DNA test, he clarified. The room seemed to shrink. I felt Lily's grip tighten instantly. She didn't fully understand, but she understood enough. And? I asked, even though something in my chest was already bracing. His eyes didn't leave mine. She's not mine. Not mine. He said it like ownership. Like belonging could be measured and stamped and revoked. That doesn't even make sense, I shot back immediately. You're not her father, Daniel is. I know that, he snapped. But she's not connected to me, not biologically. The words hit harder this time because now they had structure, accusation, logic twisted into something sharp, which meant only one thing. You're saying I lied, I said. I'm saying you let me believe something that wasn't true, he fired back. For 9 years. Behind him, my mom let out a quiet, strained breath. Robert, but he didn't stop. You let me love her like she was my grandchild, he continued. You let this whole family believe it. Lily shifted beside me, her voice barely there. Am I not family? That question landed heavier than anything else. No one answered her. Not him, not my mom, not Mark. No one. I felt something inside me harden, not panic, not even anger yet, just clarity pushing through the noise. When did you do it? I asked. My dad frowned slightly. What? The test, I said. When? He hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it, and so did my mom. Robert? She warned quietly. Too late. When? I repeated. A few months ago, he said, finally. A few months ago, I echoed. Right after Mark's son got sick, that shifted the room again. Mark went completely still. My mom's eyes snapped to me. And my dad didn't answer. He didn't have to, because now it clicked. This wasn't about me. Not at first. I took a step forward, my pulse steady now, in a way that didn't feel accidental. You didn't test her because you doubted me, I said slowly. No one interrupted. No one denied it. I looked straight at him. You tested her because of Mark. Mark's face drained of color. And my dad? He just stood there, silent. Mark pushed his chair back slightly, but not all the way, like he couldn't decide whether to leave or stay. What are you talking about? He said too quickly. I didn't look at him yet. I kept my eyes on my dad. You didn't wake up one day and question me, I said. Something made you do it. Still nothing from him. So I turned to Mark. Your son, I said. The hospital. The testing. Mark's jaw tightened. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. I shot back. The pieces were lining up now, whether they wanted them to or not. You said he needed a genetic match, I continued. Something rare. So they tested family, right? Mark didn't answer, but my mom did softly, like she was already giving up. Yes. That was enough. I nodded once, slow, and something didn't match. Silence. Heavy. Confirming. I stepped closer to the table, my voice lowering but sharpening. So you started testing everyone quietly, just to be sure. My dad finally spoke, defensive now. I had a right to know what was going on in my family. In your family, I repeated. There it was again, that word. Possession, control. But instead of asking questions, I went on, you picked the easiest target. His eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Me, I said plainly. The single mom. The one whose husband left. The one you never fully trusted anyway. That's not... You already had doubts about Daniel, I cut in. So when something didn't add up, you didn't question your side, you questioned mine. That landed. I saw it. Because it was true. Behind him, my mom let out a quiet sob, covering her mouth. Emily, she whispered. But I wasn't done. I turned back to Mark. What did your results show? Stop, he said immediately. What did they show? I pressed. I said stop. His voice cracked on the second word. That was all I needed. I looked back at my dad. You found something you didn't like. I said, something that didn't fit your version of how this family works. You don't know what you're talking about, he snapped, but there was no weight behind it now. I know enough, I said. I let the silence sit for a second, just long enough for all of them to feel it. Then I said the one thing that made all of it shift. If she's not your grandchild, I paused, letting the logic settle in the air between us. Then either I lied, no one moved, or I continued, my voice steady now, you're not who you think you are. My dad's expression changed just slightly, but it was there, a crack. He shook his head immediately. That's ridiculous. Is it? I asked. No answer. Of course not. Because now the direction had flipped and he felt it. I reached into my coat pocket slowly. I thought something was off too, I said. My mom looked up sharply. Emily, what did you do? I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen for just a second before unlocking it. I didn't wait, I said. The room held its breath. I ran my own test. My dad's voice came out low, controlled, but not steady. You're bluffing. I turned the screen toward him. No, I said quietly. I'm not. No one spoke. Not even my dad. He stared at the screen, but I could tell he wasn't really reading it yet, just trying to decide if he even wanted to. Read it, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Slowly, he took the phone from my hand. The report was simple, clinical, no emotion in it at all. But the conclusion was clear. His eyes moved across the words once, then again, slower. And then he stopped. What is this? He asked, but the edge in his voice was gone. It's a paternity analysis, I said. Mine. My mom let out a broken sound behind him. Emily, I didn't look at her. Lily is my daughter, I continued, steady. That was never in question. I took a small breath. But you, I held his gaze, are not my father. The words didn't explode. They landed. Heavy, final. My dad blinked like his body needed a second to catch up to what he'd just heard. That's not possible. It is, I said, and it explains everything you've been so desperate to ignore. Behind him, my mom broke completely, her knees giving out just enough that she had to grab the back of a chair. I was going to tell you, she said through tears. I didn't know how long, my dad asked, cutting her off. His voice had changed. Not loud, not angry, empty. She didn't answer right away, which was an answer. How long, Diane? He repeated. Her hands shook. Since before Emily was born. That was it. That was the fracture point. Mark swore under his breath, stepping back like the floor had shifted under him too. You've got to be kidding me. It was a mistake, my mom said quickly, desperately. It didn't mean anything. It was just, stop, my dad said. One word. Flat. Silencing. The room felt smaller now, like everything in it had been rearranged in ways no one could fix. You accused her, I said quietly, stepping forward again. You threw a child to the floor and told her she wasn't family. I paused, letting it sit there, because you couldn't face the possibility that you were wrong. He didn't look at me, didn't look at Lily, didn't look at anyone. For the first time in my life, my dad looked uncertain. Lily tugged gently at my sleeve. Mom, I looked down at her immediately. Her eyes were wide, but clearer now, searching. We're still us, right? She asked. I crouched in front of her, brushing her hair back gently. Always, I said. That doesn't change. I stood up, taking her hand firmly in mine. "We're leaving," I said. My mom stepped forward instantly. "Emily, please don't go like this." "There is no other way to go," I replied. I didn't raise my voice, didn't need to. She stopped because she knew. We walked to the door together, Lily holding on to me, quieter now, but steady. No one tried to stop us this time. Behind us, nothing felt like it could be put back together anyway. The fallout didn't stay inside that house. It never does. Within days, the truth spread through the family, first in whispers, then in full conversations no one could control anymore. The story flipped. What started as my dad publicly rejecting my daughter became something else entirely. He stopped answering calls, stopped showing up. From what I heard, he barely left the house. Mark kept his distance from me, from him, from everything. Caught in something he didn't ask for but couldn't ignore anymore. And my mom, she tried. Calls, messages, apologies that came too late and said too little. I didn't answer, not right away, because some things don't get fixed with explanations. A few weeks later, things were quieter. Not perfect, not whole, but stable. Lily and I started new routines, our own versions of what holidays look like, smaller, simpler, ours. One night, she handed me a drawing she made at school, just two people holding hands. Above it, in careful, uneven letters, she'd written, "My family." I looked at it longer than I meant to. Then I put it on the fridge, because that was enough. Sometimes I still think about that moment at the table. The chair, the silence, his voice. "Get out." He meant it as rejection, as control, as the final word. But standing here now, I realize something else. It was the first honest thing he ever gave me. And we didn't go back. We didn't need to.
So, was it truth or timing? What would you have done differently? Tell me.